All right, a viewer sent me this link and I forgot to put it in my earlier video about how they opened a sex robot brothel in Amsterdam. Yeah, that really happened, and so did this. This is the headline from the Telegraph coming out of London. Artificial human life could soon be grown in lab after embryo breakthrough. And here's what it says. Artificial human life could soon be grown from scratch in a lab after scientists successfully created a mammal embryo using only stem cells. And then it goes on to say this. Cambridge University mixed two kinds of mouse stem cells and placed them on a 3D scaffold. After 4 days of growth in a tank of chemicals designed to mimic conditions inside the womb, the cells formed the structure of a living mouse embryo. The breakthrough has been described as a masterpiece in bioengineering, which could eventually allow scientists to grow artificial human embryos in the lab without the need for sperm or an egg. Well, they can do that already, because if they can do that with a mouse, they can do that with a human. I've talked about this before in terms of cloning, and this is more transhumanist. This is just all trans. This is all the trans stuff I cover here: transgender, transhumanism, trans everything, because this is the next generation level of demonic worship that's happening on this planet. They're making sex robots, and they're developing artificial intelligence to go with them. They're making all these breakthroughs in robotic technology, all these breakthroughs in software and human interface devices, and all these types of things, moving consciousness from humans to machines. And now you have this stuff where they're developing synthetic life and being able to procreate human life without the biological need of two human beings, interaction, two human hearts, hopefully loving each other, hopefully connected to God, and bringing in a soul in those kind of conditions, rather in some lab with chemicals and no hearts and no anything, and then raising it up in a machine, not connected to a mother's love, not connected to a mother's essence and her soul and her energy and her connection to God, and this beautiful natural process that we already have. But you got to bring in some other process when you're already saying the world is gravely overpopulated. But now you've developed an artificial way to bring life in. And with all these breakthroughs that they're having, I just wanted to point one thing out. There is a great talk given by the transhumanist Ray Kurzweil. Now, Ray Kurzweil's written many books and he's made many breakthroughs of his own. He's the guy who invented the scanner. So every time you scan some document, you have Ray Kurzweil to thank for this. And he is now the head of engineering at Google, and he's one of the biggest proponents of transhumanism. And he gives a talk about some sort of how technology is growing exponentially. And he says, there was this time where they were working on something, I forget what it was, and it took 7 years to do 1%. And these people came to him and said, that's really slow. It's going to take forever to finish. He goes, no, we're halfway done. And they said, what? He said, yeah, it's going to double. And the next 7 years, it grew exponentially. So it took 7 years to get to 1%, and then another 7 years to get to 100%. And that's how we have all these technological advancements. So once you see there's a significant breakthrough, everything else accelerates from there. And this is something for us all to be aware of, because people say, we're a long way from this transhumanist movement. No, we're not. It's coming up on us quick, and it's an end game for what I call the controllers. All of these things. And you see, they're all merged together. The sex robots and this artificial life and transgender people and all these things, they're part of a movement. It's a collective movement, and these are all little bits and parts that seem unrelated, but they're all related in their end game of moving away from people and moving us into being machines. Everything's about making us into machines. We're moving away from being biological units to being merged with machines, and then the machine part which they all think is superior to the biological part, takes over, and eventually the biological part disappears, and we're no longer human beings. And we're just a wisp of what we used to be, and there's these soulless machines that maybe think a little bit like human beings and contain some human personality, but they're clearly not the way that we were designed. And this isn't the way that life on planet Earth is designed. And so you'll see that our society, it's a race between the apocalypse and transhumanism. That's what's going on right now, between a complete collapse of our system or a complete takeover and a loss of human life changing, or a transformation of human life changing into machine life that imitates human life. So this is Paul Romano reporting from the apocalypse. Everybody have a blessed day.